I've been listening to your record, your former record, 1991, I believe this is, Noisy Mama.
Yes,
Everybody,
sir.
everybody has one. Uh, Great overlooked record. Take us back to that time and tell us about the creation of that album. You were on a major label, Atco, and you had the single was on MTV, so you had some traction. Things were going. Take us back to that time. Tell us about that era, and then in maybe in your opinion, why did things not take off?
Well, I think that first of all, we started as White Noise, and that was all the way in '82 when I joined that project, and it worked its way up to finally getting Atco to come out and see us. At that point, we we actually opened up for Donnie Irish, and Mark Ross from Atco came down and they signed us right there in '89, '90, and we just basically moved to New York City. Three of us, actually, the two guitar players, Jimmy Gamina and Dave Scott, and I moved on to 55th Street, and we started writing the record.
Yeah.
So after that, we started looking at different producers, different, just trying to grasp what we were doing, where we were going, and everything like that.
What? Why the name change? Because you were White Noise, and then when this album came out, you were suddenly Noisy Mama. What was the reason for that?
I actually, I got fired from the band for a time because I lost my voice. It went away, and at that point, I really didn't know enough about vocalizing to, I guess, have a grip on it. I took some amazing vocal lessons with Dr. Vogel from Dana School of Music. Put my band together, Motherload. So then they had actually brought in a guy named Paul Navu, which I called my evil twin, which, he was a fantastic songwriter, great frontman. And so we had White Noise and we had Motherload. And actually, Paul Navu was the one who called me and said, "Hey, Moose, this thing ain't burning bright and blue with me. I got you got to join the band again." So their singer called me, and I went back into the band. And the first night out, as kind of as a joke, we decided not to call it White Noise, so we called it Noisy Mama. Just put the two names together, Motherload and White Noise.
There you go. Yeah.
There it was.
Yeah.
During you telling that story, I was hearing the band names and then you kind of moving around and dance and sway, and I'm going, wait a minute, and White Noise, Motherload, starting to feel that as you're telling the story. That's good. I like it when it kind of works out that way. I always thought Noisy Mama was a great band name, and I think that title, Everybody Has One, is intriguing and has enough guessing game going on. It's like, well, everyone's got a fucking asshole. And not everyone has a dog or a cat, but everyone's got an asshole. So
yeah. Well, it's funny because when we were White Noise, Jimmy's mom and Carl's mom, both of them were Italian. So they would really, they would take care of us, they would feed us. I always said I would walk into one of their homes and food would automatically, the refrigerator door would open and here comes the food, man, bam, onto the table automatically. So, we thought of our mothers too. And the Noisy Mama thing, the label really loved it. And I was quite happy to just be there and start working on it.
Well, I wasn't calling anybody's mother an asshole. But everyone has a mother too.
You better not. No.
Yeah. Well, it's a term of endearment at best. So.
Yeah, on this show anyway.
Yeah. We're all pretty happy going guys here. So
yeah. So the album came out in '91, and we all know the musical tides were shifting at that time, and I feel like based on the sound of the band and the record, You guys were probably, is it safe to say, a victim of timing? Because I think if this album came out in 88, 89 even, it might have, made a little more noise.
Maybe even
yeah.
maybe even a few years even earlier than that.
Yeah.
86 or something.
Because I was going to comment on Paul's vocal style. When I listen to it, I hear there's parts where I hear Tom Kiefer, so there's some Cinderella in here. But the guy that stands out to me that I thought of immediately was Vicky James Wright from Johnny Crash. And so I feel like there's a sound, there's an element of the sound of Noisy Mama that would have been right at home, as Jason says, in maybe 86, 87, 89, somewhere in that span.
There was, I feel, if I may comment before, I want to get Paul's opinion, of course, but I feel like there was like this class of 89 that was doomed. It was like, it was like, well, let's go ahead.
Right.
Since the Guns are doing so good, let's go ahead and throw a bunch of money at these bands that are doing the same kind of thing. And of course, in their eyes, it was going to work. And we were, I'll speak for myself, along for the ride. And, this is fleeting. This is not going to last very long. So I'm going to live it up and write the best, cock rock song I can and get on as many tours as I can and meet as many people as I can, because you don't know when this is going to end. And this would have been right around the time that your record came out, 1991. Is that right?
Oh yeah, we were actually we had released Heart of Stone on MTV, and that was our first single. We kind of wanted to do Long Way Home first, which was our ballad / anthem song.
Yeah.
So Jimmy and I were actually on a radio tour during that time, singing Long Way Home, getting ready to make a video for that and release it. And all of a sudden our Atco rep was like not there. And then he's on the phone, which there were no cell phones back then. So he's back in the office of the radio station. He's talking to people. All of a sudden, he says, what's going on here? And he says, well, Atco just merged with East West Records, and I have no idea what's going to happen. So there it was.
Well, and also there was another style of music more popular.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Absolutely.
all of a sudden there was, the dollar bill was flying another direction. So a lot of A&R people, a lot of labels, as on top of the mergers that were happening around that time. And a lot of bands were already on the road and had already had a record out, and that was happening while they were, it was Spinal Tap. They were showing up to in stores and shit and signings and shit, and there's no product because the mergers, they're culling shit off the shelf so they can repackage it and put it back out there. And by that time, I think half of the bands who got signed in 87, 88 and had a record out summer 89 and went on, or even later, and went on the road, the labels were like, why? Why make us another record with these guys if they're the other likenesses are not selling? And the obvious are that bands from Seattle are a trend now, which I think bands from Seattle hated being a trend after a while. They were happy to be successful, but I think they were also like kind of punk rock and sort of hoping they would be able to have some stamina in the business and not be a flash. And some of them were a flash, just like some of the cock rock bands too. So it's kind of interesting how that panned out. It was kind of, no one knew where that business was going to go. Do you have any opinions about that era? And, you say you were doing a radio tour and pushing a record, and then all of a sudden your A&R guy's not in the room anymore, and start retell that story and go further with it.
Well, again, I know music has to change and evolve. I just wish it would have waited another year. but because it's a
You
long
and me
way
both,
home,
buddy. You and me both.
Yeah, Jason.
Just for a second. I mean, come on. You know, we just put out this fucking record because hey, I put a record out in '91 too, and it was like, meh. You know, that was kind of how it was received by the tastemakers. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I couldn't find his A&R guy either.
Yeah, my A&R was some 20-year-old kid. You know, I was like, "Who are you?" Yeah.